Welcome back to Philosopher. So just a few days ago, I wrote an essay. I had quite a difficulty naming that essay, but I concluded and named it the diversity paradox. So, what I'll do, what we are going to do in this video is, I'm going to try to explain the whole essay, and like there should be a disclaimer because I don't know if this idea has ever been written in the history so far, but I've tried to write and put into words what I thought, and this is going to be this essay is just another argument for God that has been put into many words and explained very nicely, if I say. So we're just going to start. So it goes like that. Why does such a vague diversity exist in people? It just starts with a question, and it is not quite hard to understand what the question is. Why do some people eat from a silver spoon while others live in abrupt conditions? That's again a question. Two questions in a row. For an example, why do people living in North Korea have to suffer while people living in South Korea have a breath of fresh air? Now that's a conclusion, even though they are a couple hundred kilometers away. That's a very interesting observation I had while writing the essay. So I'll conclude what does the diversity paradox mean, even though it is very easy to conclude what it can mean, but still. So if you think about it, the question is a very big question. If we take the real life example of North and South Korea, even though their borders are connected and their people live just couple hundred kilometers away, one side is a totalitarian regime and a dictatorship, whilst other is a democracy. So why does such a diversity exist? That is the first point of the essay. Then I'll just continue. If a real omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent God exists, why does he let all his creations live so differently from each other? So that is the third question of the essay, which is, if all the characteristics of the God that I've just presented over here, if such a God existed, which is the ideal God according to most of the people, not only atheists but most theists also believe God to be like this. First is omniscient, that means all knowing. Second is omnipotent, that means all powerful. And third is omnibenevolent, that means all loving. So, if we think, if I tell you to think about God, this idea comes to your mind that a God is going to be all loving, all powerful because he has created all this world, and omniscient because also he has created this world. So I'll conclude. If you convince that the people of North Korea are innocent and will attain eternal freedom and joy in heaven, then why let them suffer in the first place? That is a very interesting point. So, for this argument that I just presented just previously, just a few minutes ago, many, you know, theists could answer that this life is temporary for the innocent North Koreans or people living in bad conditions, uh, and financial issues or anything that is considered bad morally, ethically. So atheists can say that this life is temporary and everyone is going to die at some point, and they are also going to die, and because they are innocent they will attain a heaven. We all know what is heaven. and then they will attain eternal peace in heaven and every joy of life. But the main question arises, if they are later going in heaven, then why let them suffer in the first place? Like, if you think God is going to give them heaven, let them in heaven, but why is He letting them suffer in the first place? Why can't He just create conditions like heaven on earth and just let them die? Why suffer now and then uh, uh, attain peace and joy? And there is also an argument for this, that suffering builds character, and it is a very popular argument that for suffering and evil, that suffering and evil, when when it happens to a person, it builds his character, but it is only applicable for, in very minor suffering and minor evil. If a child dies of blood cancers like leukemia or anything, dies, literally dies, is there any character development? If you think, I don't know what to do about you, there's no character development in him because he had died. So that is the answer to this all. So let's just continue. This is a cruel injustice done by God on the basis of geography. It is, because just a couple hundred kilometers of distance and whole lives can change. And even if we set aside the sufferings of human done by God, another window opens. I'll just go what is the, and we'll see what is the another window I'm talking about here. That is the suffering of non-human animals, things such as animals and plants. And even if we set aside plants due to the lack of central nervous system, because plants can't directly feel pain like we and animals can do. And why did I say we and animals? Because we are also considered as animals, but some theists still don't believe that we are considered as animals. They still think we are God's favorite beings and we are not considered as animal. And animal in their perspective is something lower than our level. So I don't know. So it's just animal and plant. And even if we set aside plants due to the lack of central nervous system, we still cannot foresee the death of animals in barbaric conditions. The brutal sufferings of animals cannot be justified by any divine and holy book. Sometimes holy book can answer our sufferings, like the character development argument, but can they answer the sufferings of non-human animals and things like plants and animals? They don't. So, and it's not that the case that animals do not feel pain. Animals do actually feel pain, and nearly in all of the holy books, spiritual books, it is not prohibited to eat meat, which is a bit weird because you are a creation of God. If God is real, you are a creation of God, and animals are also a creation of God. So eating, so you are letting, if you are God, you're letting your one creation eat your other creation, which is just a big injustice. So the brutal sufferings of animals cannot be justified by any divine or holy book, which I just repeated. Here's a vivid example about the African wild dogs, which are also known as the Lycaon pictus. So it is the name of the African wild dogs. They don't kill their prey first. Instead, they start eating it alive, ripping parts and chunks of muscles and organs, while the animal is still fully conscious. So tell me, how can an omnibenevolent God justify this? This indeed cannot be justified because every counter argument for it does not apply here, because they are non-human beings, and for non-human beings in holy books it's not much written for them. It's a big injustice for them. There are no divine rules for them because the holy books were created by humans. First of all, animals don't actually have free will, and neither do we, nor they have feelings for greed, lust, or temptation about anything. And even if some say it's a test by God, what is the test even about? Like, there is a circle at the start of the essay. There was the same question indirectly, and then there is again the question indirectly, and it goes in a circle, and we are at the end of the essay right now. Is our purpose in life only limited for divine entertainment? And it ends. The question is important. Is our life, life's meaning, only limited to divine entertainment? You think? Because if an omnibenevolent and omniscient God exists, and he's still letting these things happen in his world, then it is just for his entertainment, and we have to die as entertaining puppets, and we can't do anything. And if he's really using us for entertainment, then there is no point worshipping him. So if you like this argument, please talk about it. That's all I can say. And share it to people, uh, and theists especially, so they can know what is the reality of their metaphysical world they live in. So thanks for watching.